Welcome to Project Teachers Lounge.
So our first guest is Terry Dennis, or Terry D, however he wants to call himself these days. I actually know Terry through my brother. He is, they went to college really close to each other. Terry D is a former D1 college athlete. He played football at Mizzou. And we actually roomed together at my brother's bachelor weekend last year. So that was an interesting situation. Remember the man on the mountain? I can't remember what he said, but I did use it in my best man speech. So if you find that somewhere, you'll hear what this old man, the wisdom he gave us as he ran up a mountain, beat us up the mountain, and then beat us back down the mountain. And it was like 7 of us all in our like 20s and 30s. And we're like, where the hell does this old man go? So Terrence is a football coach at a local college in Kansas, close to Kansas City. I'm sorry, in Missouri, close to Kansas City, correct? Yeah.
Yes.
And he used to be a coach at a junior high, a basketball coach, and I was supposed to help out. I don't exactly know what happened with that situation, but we'll blame it on my brother. Miscommunication, his fault. But yeah, so this is Terrence D, a college football coach, here to talk about how he works with students during the pandemic. Is there anything else you want to add, Terry?
Not necessarily, man. I'm really not sure why the whole freshman basketball, junior high basketball thing didn't work. Now that you remind me of it, that was the thing. So I don't know, man. For me, I don't know. It's kind of been, I've been in a space where I've really just been working with kids all the way up from junior high, all the way up to college, probably for the better part of the past, off and on, I guess you could say, since 2013. So about 7-8 years going on that now. But different capacities from, actual classroom work to obviously athletics and things of that nature. A little bit of like the mental and behavioral side along in there. But for me, it's been one of those situations where it's gotten more rewarding. I haven't gotten tired of it. And I think I've kind of settled into more of the demographic that I'm trying to work with for my career with college kids. I think that's where I was most impressionable, which is kind of a different thing. You think that, younger kids might be. And I met your brother there. I was able to learn a lot of different things, just kind of watching him, always coming through the house and, the things my coaches taught me, that's where I think I fall in line with where I want to be for the rest of my career, and being that educational piece that comes along with coaching. It's more than just football for me. It's never been just that. But yeah, I guess that's kind of the footnote version of where I was going with that one. But it definitely, just the education aspect of it, and the fact that it's gotten a little tougher this year, I think that speaks true to what a true educator has to go through, kind of the day-to-day things that get interrupted, and some of the things that people take for granted, to be honest.
Okay, so I got all that. One question for you. Do you have your phone with you, and are you able to record your audio with your phone? Just I'm having I don't know, it's probably on my end, the internet connection. But if you record with your phone, then I can just use that later to add back in the video.
I'm not sure. Let me see.
Are you using your phone for Zoom right now?
Yes, I am.
Never mind. We'll figure it out. Because I don't think you can do both. I mean, you have an Android, so you might be able to do that. I know iPhones can't do that. It's cool. We'll figure it out then. But yeah, so what I got from that is that you work with college students because that's when you were most impressionable. And I kind of relate to that because I play sports in college. And I think when I got to becoming an adult and kind of understand life, it's like, okay, there's more to this. There's more, I look back now, I learned so much in college, although I didn't have the greatest relationship with my coach. We're cool now, but the things that he taught, they now make more sense. And they're you're at a point in your life where the knowledge that somebody's given to you can actually seep into your mind and actually mean something and go further on. So I definitely get what that means for you as a coach, being at that moment. I can help these students who are after this, they're going on to life. So you're kind of the last stop for them to get that little bit of knowledge outside of the classroom.
Right.
I definitely understand that. And I don't know what happened with the basketball thing, but you didn't need my help. You had those two kids who were like stars who were going to be on varsity the next year. So you didn't really need my help.
Oh man, well, actually, one of those stars ended up transferring schools and completely went downhill. He got arrested and all that good stuff this past year, and I don't know. There's two other guys that emerged, and right now I think, well, I checked on them just a couple weeks ago. I think they're doing pretty darn good themselves. Grades are phenomenal. I don't know, those feel good stories, I guess you could say. I still like to give them a hard time whenever I do speak to them now that I'm not there anymore. But yeah, they're juniors now. Golly, just kind of going up. Yeah, so they were in 8th grade at that time when I first met them. Now they're about to be juniors. So time just keeps moving forward. For kids in their position, I think the most rewarding thing is actually being able to, I guess from the coaching's perspective, kind of use the things that you gave them. I talk a lot about, the things that my coaches gave me in terms of that knowledge, that real life, that tough love, that support that honestly I didn't have because I didn't have a father and mama. That's a lot of the kids I work with too. So for me, being more impressionable, using the things that they gave me, I know my position coach, Coach Hill, he's actually one of the assistant special teams coaches for Chiefs now. And I probably flooded him with messages like, man, Coach, thank you for, this, that, and the other. I think it's made me the coach I am, even when I thought him and I weren't the best friends. But I know that it's also in reverse. It's a very good thing to watch happen, to see kind of, them use the things that they didn't get back in 8th grade. They didn't get back in, sophomore year in high school when you tried to tell them, but it didn't seep in. You didn't see the fruits of it. And, to see that now, knowing that obviously there's other men that have been in their life that have been able to help them out, kind of guide them along that way. It's equally as rewarding for a person like me to kind of see that sort of thing because, like it or not, I actually became that father figure, I guess you could say, to some of them. And, sometimes you get annoyed, sometimes you get frustrated, things of that nature. But at the end of the day, they're kids, they're learning. And weirdly enough, they teach you a lot more than what you could actually bring to the table for them. I think it's doctored up how I actually coach now. Things that didn't work, things I should have said, things that I didn't say that I should have, things of that nature. It's just one of those things, man, that I don't know, you kind of see it both ways. You see it in reverse. You see it actually played out now. And, I don't even know the word, but you're thankful. You're grateful that you have those experiences, especially when you're educating.
I think you make a good point. You see. I was taught this in my very early time when I was working with students. That my phone. That sounds like something vibrating.
Oh yeah, that was mine. That was mine. Sorry, but no, man, I'm getting what you're saying.
Yeah, you get like the utmost of like it's like a job you don't see the rewards or the benefits or the outcome until years down the road. And that's something like I used to work with kids and they were in high school. So now I feel like I wasn't a father figure, kind of like an older brother because I wasn't much older than them. But like they're now in their 20s and I'm just like, I'm still in my 20s. So like, how was I like an authority figure to you 5 years ago in that situation? But what I want to do is transition over to your coaching right now in the pandemic. And, you're still working with students who I don't know what the demographic is, if they come from fatherless homes or that situation, but how are you connecting with them now that you're in a pandemic? Are you guys switching up what you can do because of COVID? What are like the new protocols that you guys have now had to put into place, and how are y'all working with that? How are you working with that specifically to connect with the players?
So it's a lot like what you see on TV with the NCAA. We're an NAIA school, so we're smaller. But how we're doing things, obviously we've got protocols from, how many guys can be in the gym. They actually opened up another locker room underneath our bleachers in our field house for us to house some guys over there. That way we're in ratio of who can actually be in the locker room at one time. I think we're sitting at no more than 20 something guys at a time. So as we're exiting practice, we'll get into different periods. We'll schedule practice a certain way that the O linemen and the D linemen, they have to go into the locker room first to shower. So by the time we're done, then we can start filtering all the other guys through. The linemen, they can leave. We're still in ratio. We had to do back in training camp, you had to section guys off in groups, and those groups were the ones that worked out together, certain numbers, because you can't have X amount of guys in the weight room at once. So we made it work. So there's all those different intricacies. And then we were actually pretty fortunate on our end to not get involved with, the contact tracing and things of that nature, because we had a handful of games that were either rescheduled or, well, we thought they were canceled, but they were rescheduled. So our season actually ended up getting split. Our fall portion ended in late October, and we're going to pick back up here on March 13th against a pretty good team with Southwestern College. But right now, it's a situation where that pandemic thing kind of hit us a little bit towards the beginning of November, to where we had 2 weeks left, and then we got some guys that tested positive, and we were riding high too, man. We were 5-1, knocked off the number 6 team in the country on their homecoming, things like that, and then all of a sudden, boom. And I think it's kind of a testament to the things that we've done to kind of help keep our guys safe on and off the field. School-wise, everyone was still going to classes. And I think we transitioned to some online there. And a lot of guys had majority online classes anyway from the beginning of the school year. So it was a good mixture. But we, everything from distancing, like during practice, which you think football doesn't really, it doesn't really matter. You're hitting each other. But, that part stayed the same. But, when we're together, coaches are wearing masks. We bring it up at the end of practice and everything, and everyone's kind of spread out. So we found any little way that we could actually make this thing work, and it did work. So for us, it's kind of been, those final 2 weeks there that we, contact tracing. It just worked out that we had one of those 2 last weeks, because it just fell right there on that 2-week mark, was a bye week. So it wouldn't necessarily mattered anyway. But we actually were making some headway there. And for what this pandemic has actually cost, we've got an awesome head coach. We've got an awesome set of coaches that stay on these guys, even from afar. So we'll be texting them all the time, getting their grades, making sure they're good. Hey, let me see you guys working out. Whatever the case may be, we find ways in the middle of all of it, because I think a lot of people view this pandemic as kind of like a death sentence. But I think the mark of like a true good head coach and things like that we have, we find a way. And it's not about bending the rules necessarily. It's about essentially creating a new reality, at least for the time being, because, as temporary as football is, we don't view this pandemic as like the say all be all. We understand you guys have families, things of that nature, and gave up a lot to actually be at Avila University here in Kansas City. But with the pandemic, making sure that our guys are good, making sure that their grandparents, their parents, everyone who contacts us all the time knows that, yes, we're taking care of your babies. It's been a challenge, but, coming from where I've come from in the coaching world, and, as a college athlete, you yourself can probably attest to it. As an athlete that's gone through what, a college athlete has gone through, there's really not a challenge that you're not up to really meeting. And for, the impact that you have on these guys, you take that serious in the sense that it's like, what, we're going to find a way. And that's just where it's been. And you mentioned, the demographic of guys we have. We've got some guys who come from some pretty bad positions. We've got guys who come up, dare I say, a more privileged type lifestyle. Color doesn't matter in that aspect. You've got guys on different ends of the spectrum. But this is one of those situations for a lot of guys that, quite honestly, it's more of like, man, they need the program more than the program needs them. And it's not that they're a bad athlete or anything. It's just that this might be their chance to do something good for their family. One, graduate from college. Two, do the thing that they love. And three, hey, I mean, the Chiefs are right around the corner. We've had NFL squads come and talk about our guys. But it's a situation where the door is open for them for all these possibilities that if they were still at home, they might not have gotten. So we're mindful of that. We're really in tune with where these guys are mentally throughout this whole process, man. And it's a nice buy-in, because I think one of the more difficult items that a coach has to deal with is just getting the full buy-in from a team. And right now, with a team of over 120 guys, it's easy for, one guy to go here and take everyone else with him. But I think this pandemic, for the most part, has probably done more good than harm, because everyone's starting to realize that things like, simple little, first world freedoms to get taken away. It's like, what do you have left? And then, I mean, shoot, you got your teammates, you got your coaches, you got a good support system, you got a village, things of that nature. But they're really starting to realize just how important this is and the impact that it's having on more than just them. So I think for us and myself personally in my life, from an education type standpoint, where you're trying to teach these guys to be young men, it's probably done more good than harm. We don't really subscribe to the "woe is me" 2020 thing. We kind of took that one and ran.
Gotcha. So what I got is y'all. So your schedule is basically split. So you finished already for the fall. Y'all gonna pick back up in March. Not like spring football with a new class. It's gonna be legit the same team in March.
Yeah, and that's where it gets weird, man, because we just like I think the NCAA did the same thing. But what it looks like is, because of the pandemic, for these guys, this year technically does not count. So what it means is they could come back for the following year. Now, the difference is, if guys don't have the grades from this first semester, then they won't be eligible for second semester within the same season. So there's little intricacies like, well, shoot, what if we have a transfer guy that wants to come in at semester? Does he play? What if we have a guy who is a senior, and things like that? But there's a lot of questions, and the league being, the NAIA headquarters and the league being right here in Kansas City anyway, it's easy for us to get those answers. But it kind of got split a little bit. Games that we were supposed to have already, those are going to get filtered over into March, and then come mid-April, I believe that's when playoffs will start. So weird season, man. Some teams don't even start until spring, when you think of like higher leagues and whatnot. But yeah, so this is going to be 2 years without, I guess you could say, without spring football. It's literally the same season. So it's kind of weird. It is, but it's one of those things that we're like, hey, it is what it is, man, and we just rock with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of like not the mantra of sports, but in sports you kind of have to roll with what's given to you. Like, I didn't play football, so I don't know much about football. But basketball, for instance, like you say, where is the opening? Take that open. Don't try to make it more difficult. Don't make keep it simple. Don't throw that difficult pass when you can just throw a chest pass at a one-handed, although it might look better, pass to the person in the corner. But something you said about togetherness and like this actually bringing the team together is something that I thought that I was questioning, like with freshmen or first year students who are coming in, like how are you keeping them, because they spent the end of their senior year in quarantine. They didn't get to end their senior year of high school. So something I've thought about just in general, like you expect high school students to now come to college and also be quarantined. How are y'all dealing with kind of keeping them on track to do what's right for their health and right for the team, but also keeping their mental health out of this space too?
Well, and for us, it's kind of being that family away from home. Obviously, you're never going to limit access to, family members or things like that, or, that contact. That's important to us, first and foremost. But for a freshman guy that's coming in, fresh off the street, fresh off a weird pandemic-ridden season, it's more of the same. So what we don't really want to do is treat this like it's a completely different scenario. The buy-in is still the same, the plan is still the same, the game plan is still the same. Yes, there's some unpredictables, things of that nature, but as a freshman athlete coming in, you sort of have that sense of you're kind of ready for whatever, right? You don't really know what to expect anyway. And with them coming off of that pandemic, I guess you could say, and having some of their seasons cut short, because I mean, we've got guys from Florida, Virginia, we've got guys from, wherever you can think of. Um, what you got is a situation where technically right now, this is all they know. And they just want to know that, hey, can I play college football? Yes, you can. Is this a brand new team? Yes, it is. For me, it's a brand new team, coach. And, I want to go out. I want to show what I can do. And we give them that opportunity. So for us, it's not treating it like, oh my goodness, this is such a different thing for us. It's more of just keeping things the same, keeping things the apple away. And then just kind of not really letting the chips fall where they may, but kind of guiding them away from doing things that a typical freshman in college would do. Because as soon as you get to college, and you can attest to it, man, you're like, I've got this freedom. I don't know what to do with it, but I'm going to do something. And right now, there's limits, there's restrictions, and to say that that it's going to be perfect is completely just false. Because these guys are going to want to get together. They're going to want to hang out with the girls. They're going to want to hang out with each other. They're going to want to go in rooms that they're not supposed to, even against the rules. And those things are going to happen. But we encourage them to be like, hey, listen, you've spent a heck of a lot of money because this is a smaller private school. Your parents are counting on you. You've come a heck of a long way to be here. Opposite side of the country, almost. Is this really worth, going over to that party? Is it worth doing all of these different things that are going to put you with more of a deficit when we come back, or potentially put us at risk of not having a season at all? Because we didn't even think we didn't know we were going to even have a season, to be honest, because of all the hiring. But the thing is, they obviously kept going. But for us, we for those freshmen, it's more of them getting an understanding that this is college football. It might not be, Clemson. It might not be LSU. It might not be one of those things, but you have a tremendous opportunity right now to do something for you and your family that, quite honestly, you might be the only one who ever does or has done to this point. So we give them not the ramifications, but essentially we give them an outline of, hey, little man, this is, and that's what they are. They're men. They're, they've got to kind of grow into that grown man mentality. It's just like, hey, man, what you got right now is much bigger than you. This isn't a state title. This isn't you just. This isn't high school anymore. Something has to happen, and it's unfortunate that it came at the price of a pandemic right now. But for all intents and purposes, we let them know just how big of an opportunity this is, how big of an opportunity they have, and just how important they are to making this team run. And as a freshman, to know that you're important, whether you play or not, I mean, that's big, man. So it's not, we're not lying to them. We're giving it to them real. Because let's be honest, man, this pandemic is literally killing people off. It's a real serious matter. And for them, I think they take it serious to know, like, you know what, I have a role, I'm important, and it's bigger than just football for me too. So, but freshmen will be freshmen at times. So.
Yeah, I think you hit on something that I didn't even realize. Like, you're coming in, no matter what, it's a new situation. So you don't even have that experience to say, oh, we used to do it like this. You come in and you just like, you hungry, you ready to do whatever you need to do to get on that field, athlete. And you earlier you said you have a team of 120 people, and you said that y'all are texting and communicating with them in all these different ways. Are there other ways you guys are using technology more this year than last year? For instance, I think of like film sessions. Are y'all like doing them like via Zoom, or y'all doing them? Are you still doing them in person? How how do y'all split 120 people up to follow protocol, one, and two, how are y'all using technology now that y'all weren't using before?
Well, I think we've got to lean more on the technology that we've already had. We do use Zoom a lot more. Like if we have an install, like a position meeting or something like that, we can actually, obviously you can share your screen, you can draw up notes. That's a lot of what happened with our incoming freshmen. We had meetings with them. They had already received their playbooks, things like that. And we're just kind of going through.
Yeah.
You're good. So,
Shut up, I'm getting
going over different plays, different schemes, formations, things of that nature, and just being able to see them face to face was huge because at the time, and I'm going back to summer now, because at the time, we were still kind of, are we having a season? Are we not? What's the league saying? Meeting as coaches, just on different Zoom calls and things of that nature. But obviously, it's one of those things where we also have Huddle that allows us to consolidate our film and message guys, things of that nature. So we'll use Huddle typically in the sense of, getting out team-wide messages. So our strength coach, he's on there, our head coach, all of our other coaches, so we can give like the big team-wide messages. We also use Group Me. I know our group at least does with tight ends, fullbacks, and receivers. We use Group Me. That way, it's just our position group. And then obviously we have, the ability to get a hold of our guys one-on-one, call them, text them. Technology has been a big thing. And obviously with the world of Twitter and things of that nature, where we do a lot of our recruiting, where we meet guys, where we see what our guys are doing. They'll send me crazy stuff from time to time. Coach, look at this. But we've kind of leaned more on technology, which I think plays in their favor. This age probably uses technology more than, I thought I used it a lot in college, but it's different now. These guys communicate. They find ways to meet people, which, doesn't sound too different from what we've done, but it's one of those things, man, where they're so dependent on technology, even with schoolwork and things of that nature. It's nothing for them to just in the middle of something going on, receive a message from coach and understand like, okay, like I'm still here for a reason too. 1, degree, 2, football. So for us, we really had to lean on things like Zoom, Huddle, Group Me, and obviously just texting back and forth like, hey, football aside, man, how are you doing? By the way, Merry Christmas. Things like that. So more of a leaning on that just so we can keep good modes and good lines of communication.
Got it. And so do you feel like, have there been any students that might not have access to technology? And if that's a situation, how have you all dealt with that?
When it comes to access to technology, we do first, it came with us with guys having to go home and things for like fall break and things. We asked them like, hey, who doesn't have access to computers? Who's staying here in Kansas City? Who's going back home? I think we've maybe had one situation where that I can think of that there was some computer issues. So I don't know, man. It's just been kind of a perfect storm for us. We've been pretty fortunate. No guys have really had that issue. But of course, you've got really strict deadlines, things like that you have to meet. And I think a lot of guys tried to knock out of both of that. And professors were able to work with our guys on that too and just say, hey, here's the deadline, meet the deadline, here's your syllabus, know your dates, your readings, all those things, and just kind of go from there. But I think the biggest issue that we may have had was maybe like connection issues or things like that around finals. But for us, for the most part, we really haven't had that issue just because, professors have been working with our students, not just the athletes. Because golly, for being a professor, I couldn't even imagine right now. Honestly, it comes at the price of, because I've even thought about being an adjunct professor in my past, but a lot of that stuff has gone from like paper to online anyway. You just sit in class and go over what you read on the computer, So it's something where, they've really worked with us and they've really adopted a good plan, I think, here at Apple. for our guys to succeed. And that's not special treatment. That's literally everyone. I think we're sitting at a little less than 2,000 students. So for them, it makes it pretty easy for them to, come up with plans as professors and deans, things of that nature. But I think we've got something pretty solid here, man. And for the technology thing, I probably saw that more so with the guys I keep in contact with when I was coaching high school. They're able to check out computers and things over there. And I'm not sure they were able to do that with Abla. I have to check on that one if some guys had to. But I just know some of the guys I keep in contact with from from the high school I coached at. They were able to check out computers. And that was probably my biggest worry. But from what I see, dating back to a few minutes ago when I made the comment about them succeeding, they're taking it serious. But yeah, there really hasn't been a shortage on the technology. There really hasn't been any issues, maybe one or two. So out of 120 guys, I'm in our little coaches group chat, our group, me, everything, and we're sending guys like, hey, send me your grades. So they'll take a screenshot of their little online grades. They have them posted in little blocks and things like that, so we can track it too. And obviously, we're in contact with, financial aid. We're in contact with our admissions office. So there's ways of us keeping track. But man, technology's been a lifesaver. I don't know what this would have been like maybe 15 years ago.
We wouldn't be in school right now. I don't even know. Yeah, 15 years ago, let's say that was 2005. Well, we were still rolling with flip phones back then. There weren't even. Well,
yeah.
05? I'm trying to think.
Flip phone.
I think so. Speaking of you, have you had to learn new technologies and get more upgraded in your knowledge of the tech that you guys are using, or you're just like, this is nothing to me?
It really was nothing to me, man. I came into Avila using Huddle already, and I've used GroupMe, and obviously I know how to text and use Twitter. And there's things that every once in a while one of these young cats will say, hey, I just did this, and I'm like, well, what is that? What do you mean? And they're like, everyone knows how to do that. And I'm like, listen, man, I'm going to be 32 tomorrow, but I don't know what you just did. So you're going to have to show me something. But, I've got a pretty good foundation of what's going on. I stay up with the young pups. And, I figure it out as I go. But one of those things, man, where the more and more I'm on me personally, the more and more I'm on technology, it's like, man, I miss that in-person interaction, man. It's like I'm tired of, having to text you through, my phone, having to have 85 different Zoom calls or meetings. I want to see you guys in person. I want to get out there and compete. But it's about staying patient, stepping back, making sure we're doing the steps to actually be able to get back in person. So I think, for the most part, I'm good. It's a small thing to a giant when it comes to that thing. So me and technology, we're good.
Okay, so you said you're missing the in-person. So what are you doing for yourself to keep your mental health up? Like, you're a coach, you're staying at home all day. Because you told me you have another job, a full-time job outside of this. So what are you doing to keep yourself up and running and not going into those dark days, especially in the wintertime in Kansas?
Yeah, right. So. And this has been a weird winter because, it started off last week in the 60s, and now it was 17 degrees. And I don't know. But me, for one, I do have another full-time gig because right now coaching doesn't pay. They filled all their positions that they had for, paid coaches before I got there, right before I got there. So this is more of a volunteer type thing because I'm not doing it for pay, which, I'm working my way along the way, man. I'm learning a lot of different things, and sometimes that's where you got to start, and I'm thankful for it. But for me, that does come at the price of having to find something that has benefits, that has, allows me to make money. So I do Medicare insurance, so I get to talk to people all day and get them set up with things. We're kind of off right now until the 4th of January, but it's good to actually be able to make someone's day in that aspect. I've had people cry on the phone saying thank you, and it's more a coaching experience for me because I get to coach them along what it means for them to get these sorts of benefits. So I'm in a position where coaching doesn't necessarily go away uh, just because I'm not at the facility. But beyond that, man, I have my son pretty much full time here, man. He's about to come over right now, but he's usually here, so he keeps me sane, dare I say. But he and my daughter as well, so she's sleeping. But one of those things where I'm actually able, whenever I do have some spare time, I'll work out, I'll head to the gym, kind of my little release to get, away from everything and just focus on getting myself better. Started back up reading some books. Um, and I'm a guy that just does little tasks, man. I'll clean the house. I'll do, whatever the case may be. I'll go outside and walk around my little apartment complex here. And, mentally, I've kind of taken the whole self-care thing for granted over the years. I've been more someone who tries to doctor and cater to things everyone else needs. And when you're as busy as I am at times, you kind of forget, like, oh, shoot, there's things I need too. But for me, definitely, and I'm a Netflix guy too. I'll watch like documentaries about like history or whatever the case may be. But um, for me, just the things I do to take care of myself, I like to kind of disconnect. Um, not really forget about anything, but just, time to sit by myself and maybe read or watch something, historical or, actually set my hand to something, whether I'm building something or maybe folding clothes, it doesn't matter. I find little ways here and there to keep myself sane, I guess you could say, just to make sure that, essentially that I'm doing all right. And yeah, it's one of those things that I've taken for granted in the past. Never tell your players that, but at some point you do because it's like, hey man, you're growing up, you're becoming a man. You're not going to have it all. You're not going to be able to do everything by yourself. And sometimes, as a football player, as a coach, even as a dad, you think that you can save the world. Kind of a pride thing. But I find little ways here and there that I didn't necessarily know were me taking care of myself. Healthy ways of taking care of myself. I don't party, I don't smoke, drink, do a lot of those things. And some guys do. That's not a knock on anyone that does. Some guys do, but there is that chance of flying over the edge or flying overboard and things like that. I just, me, I've always found my pleasure in doing everything else, like reading and things like that. So different strokes for different folks, but there are ways that I can actually keep my brain solid throughout this whole thing. So, yeah, I mean, that human connection is something that I definitely wish I could have. Wish I could have more of right now during the pandemic, but until then, I'm finding a way.
Got you. Basically, stay active and run around with Junior as you yell in all your Instagram videos.
Junior.
So speaking of we're just gonna keep on you for next. Then we talked a lot about the college football situation. What are your hopes for next semester? Well, I guess we'll go back. Two more questions about the college football. One, all this pandemic started in March. From March to probably the pandemic didn't start. We got notice of pandemic in March. Let me rephrase that. But from like March to like August, we had this whole, now I wouldn't even say resurgence, but this magnifying glass on social justice issues because of all the things that are happening to Black people and continue to happen to Black people. Have you had any situation where you've had to deal with that in your personal life and you're working with students, working with other coaches? Has that ever come up to where you had to like put somebody in place to kind of let them know what's happening and kind of level set?
Yeah. For one, speaking of like one of those seniors, I have a guy, he was one of our long snappers and he was one of our safeties. His name was Joey Stark. He's still around, but he actually got coaching internship with the strength and conditioning program, I think in Florida. So, and he's a little guy, but he's tough. But, it's one of those scenarios where I think his major or like what he's passionate about is things like civil rights, social justice, political science, things of that nature. And Joey's white. Now, Joey came to me, he texted me one day. He was like, Coach, when you got a minute, I've got some questions for you, man. I need your opinion. I need your help. And I'm thinking in my mind, like, oh no, what's wrong with Joey? But then we find time, and it's one of those days that practice ends, and there's like a volleyball game or something going on in the gym. But he grabs me, and he's like, "Hey, Coach." He's like, "Hey, Coach, there's a situation here. I want to know, as a coach, as a Black coach, how is it? How do you kind of navigate the waters of teaching your guys the importance of social justice, things of this nature? Because, Coach, I've seen this, I've seen that, but as a coach, how do you teach your players about what that looks like? How do you do that without crossing that line?" And I'm sitting here like, man, you are 21, barely 21, still in college, asking me these questions as a player. So he and I actually got the chance to sit outside for about 25, 30 minutes to talk. And he mentioned some things about the things that are going on with, his family and how they think and how I don't know, just different things of how, without giving away his business, different things about how he talks to the guys that he coaches. Like he coaches like a little basketball team and things like that. And he's like, "Coach, I'm white. I don't know how to explain this. From my perspective, like I look up to you, Coach." Like, and I'm like, "Wait a minute, what do you mean look up?" It took me back because I'm like, "Well, shoot, I only see you a little bit during practice because you're usually over there with the safeties. And then when it comes time to snap, you come to me." He's like, "Coach, I see some of the things you post on social media," which is another thing. And I think you're really in tune with this whole thing with social justice and things like that. I don't know how to explain that to my players without coming off as like the white guy who is overbearing or without touching those nerves or anything like that. And then, we were able to kind of just sit down and have a real life conversation. And I kind of expressed to him like, "Man, look, here's the thing. Like the fact that you're able to even have this conversation, the fact that you want to have this conversation is enough for a lot of people. It's more about being heard more so than just, you listening just to have something to reply with, or you coming up with your own opinion without going to the source and being like, hey, I've got questions," or you just being able to sit down and see it from someone else's viewpoint. And then we actually had a scenario where one of our players posted something that was kind of iffy when it came to the issue. And he came to me and was like, "Coach, I want him off the team." And I'm like, "Well, hold on now. Hold on." Like it's one thing for me to say, "You know what, you're off the team," because it was a guy in my position group. And we later got down to the root of it, and it was a situation where it was a specific situation talking about people defending someone, which made more sense. But it was a scenario where I can say, I talked to some other coaches, and we sat down and said, "You know what, hey, 10 years down the road, if this kid made a mistake on Twitter, and the first thing that we did was condemn the kid and say, you're completely off the team, we don't want to see you anymore, what precedent is that going to set for him when it comes to teaching his kids the same exact thing? What did he actually learn from that scenario?" Or it's one thing if he's just ignorant, not by choice. If he just doesn't know something and he's willing to learn and sit down and talk to some other teammates that don't look like him, that's one thing. But it's a completely different thing if he doesn't want to do that. If he just wants to stand on what he said and just, be using language like they and things of that nature. So if we have the opportunity to actually sit down and educate rather than just condemn, Whatever he does with that information is on him. But if he just takes the stance of, you know what, I stand by what I said. I'm not going to listen to anything that my black teammates have to say or my coaches. That's a completely different issue. And for me to just condemn a kid because, you know, he's white and he said something like that, without giving the opportunity for him to actually sit down and learn what the real actually is, then I think that says a lot more about me as an educator than it does about him as someone who's still 19 years old trying to find his way, which was a tough pill to swallow for a lot of guys. And for all intents and purposes, he actually did sit down. We were able to talk to him. We were able to educate him. And he was just like, man, like, I'm sorry. Like, I didn't mean this. Like, when I said this, I meant something different. And I'm like, here's how it sounds. Here's what you got to understand. And the team we have is awesome because, I mean, they forgave him. They talked to him. And we thought, like, oh, no, am I going to have to protect this kid? But it was one of those scenarios where it's definitely hit home because you've got guys who were raised a certain way to think a certain thing. You've got guys who have actually lived out, you know, things like being called the N-word to your face, being made fun of. I was literally one of just a few black kids in the entire school district until about sixth grade at my school. And then, you know, black people started flooding in and all that good stuff. But then, you know, one of those things where there was more of a standard that we had to live up to as the minority. It was based off what they saw on TV. And for me, that just wasn't me. Like, I didn't fall under the whole, you know, rapper mentality. Not all of us are going to be rappers. Not all of us are fortunate enough, like me or you and your brother, to actually be black kids that go and play college sports. You know, things like that. And, you know, it was more of helping these guys at the college level, like, hey, listen, high school is different. Now you're getting into college where all those little boxes that you thought you filled in, those little boxes that you thought you fell under, now it's a situation where you might be having to find your own new box or get out of the box that you're in and kind of think outside of it for a minute to say, hey, there's a reality outside of what I'm used to. And now, as little Joey was actually doing, we're actually able to have those grown men type conversations, just man to man, and just being honest with each other. So even this year, it's definitely been something where it's hit our team, and we've been able to actually sit down, talk, go through it. No violence, no retribution. Obviously, some anger, some tears, things of that nature, but that's to be expected when it's something this big. And I think the biggest challenge on my end was remaining as still, it's a situation where I have to kind of take those coaching blinders off for a second and say, hey, I'm a man just like you. And from there, just kind of being able to educate, not necessarily saying that, you know, all black folks or all people of color are going to go through exactly what I did, because I've gone through it. But understand that that's a reality, that when you say certain things or do certain things, it can be taken a completely different way. And ultimately, you're hurting your teammates. And, you know, you're going to be putting yourself in a position that the first reason you're here is to get your degree. But at the end of the day, you don't want to put yourself in a position where you're losing a lot more than just this small opportunity that is football or your education. So it's something that we've had to work through as a team. We've talked about as a staff. And it's just because, I mean, even our head coach, he's Hispanic. So, you know, it's one of those things that we've got men of color, we've got guys, we've got white guys that are on our coaching staff as well. And they ask us questions. They're just like, man, what do you think? Like, how do you feel about this whole thing? And I think that's probably one of the most rewarding things for me, to be a part of the staff that actually does that and is able to sit down as grown men and talk. But, but it's something where I think we're in a position where we're starting to get it. I think we've got it for a long time, but thinking that you got it doesn't necessarily mean you have all the ingredients to make that particular pie. So it's been as rewarding as it has been challenging, but going through those things, I think it's made us closer. And this is by far the best season we've had in history of this school. So I think that's a direct correlation from the top down of having guys that have fortitude to actually talk and have those conversations, be able to work through those things. So a little long-winded on that answer, but there's a lot that goes into that, man. I'm thankful for the conversations and the things that we go through.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's beneficial, to like the community as a whole, if you are able to educate students, people in general, when these situations come up, especially when they're still in college. Like when you come out of college as an adult, like you have spent time teaching this person, but when it's a student who's under your tutelage, kind of like, let me at least see where his mindset is and then go from there. And so I want to ask you, what was your high moment this semester with the football team? Like, what's that moment that just like we'll never forget?
I will never forget when we did knock off Kansas Wesleyan. They were the number 6 team in the nation at the time, I believe. I guess they've had bad blood over the years. This is my second season at Apple. I'm just really getting used to that personal. It's just a personal rivalry from coaches on down. Now, with that, I remember even last year because we almost knocked them off at our place. We lost by 1 because we decided to go for 2 and we didn't convert. And we had like 90 seconds left on the clock, if that. And they ended up just running the clock out and beating us. But it was personal because, obviously someone schedules you for homecoming. You kind of take that as disrespect. Like you think you're supposed to just win this automatically. Okay. So all of the work, all of the conversations, all of the pictures posted on the wall of the scoreboard from last year, all of the blood, all the sweat, all the things that literally went into beating this team, it all came to fruition. I mean, golly, it went as far as one of our guys, Devin, making the Sports Center top play, like literally number 1 for a catch that he made. And you could just see that week was different. You could just see the mentality in these boys' heads that all of that hard work, all of that sacrifice, because a guy like Devin, his freshman year, this team went 0-11. And now it's a situation where we're sitting at 5-1. In the past 2 seasons, we were 7-3. But from where he's gotten to where we were, to where we got to with, beating Kansas Wesleyan at their place, being that they were so highly touted and like things of that nature and ranked, the look on their faces whenever we finally did it, when that final whistle blew, I will never forget that day, ever. It was freezing. Everybody was just, it didn't matter. Like, the guys were freezing cold on the sideline, but they were like, you know what, we're here to beat K-Dub. And it's one of those scenarios where all of that attention to detail, that focus, all of that good stuff, all that preparation that week, all the way from the last 300 some odd days since they beat us, it finally paid off. And just see the look on the coaches' faces, the guys' faces. Heck, we gave them the day off after that. We gave them the day off the next day. But just to see that was the high point for me. Followed by a close second where we were supposed to have our homecoming game against Ottawa. And, families had already made plans to be here, but the Ottawa game got canceled because of, the pandemic. So we ended up still having like a little picnic barbecue type deal where I got to meet other people. Like, I got to meet some families from Louisiana, from Florida, guys, folks that I recruited, things of that nature. So, there were some high points, but that Kansas Wesleyan win, just to see the joy on the guy's face, like, man, he did it. That's not something that I'll soon forget whatsoever.
Got you. And so let's talk your career. You're a football coach. I think I heard you say you work with helping people get their Medicare in Kansas. So where does your career go from here? Has the pandemic kind of altered your aspirations, or are you still on track? And what is that end goal for you?
I think, if anything, the pandemic's probably made me want that goal even more. I think it's no secret for the most part that, I want to be a Division I football coach, and that's nothing against Avila whatsoever. I love my experience here. I'm glad that I've been able to spend the past few seasons to keep on going through there. Who knows what the future holds? But for me, I want to be a Division I football coach, and I've kept in contact with some coaches, and obviously being an alumni of Mizzou, I'd love to go back and coach at Mizzou, things of that nature. But whatever the case may be, whatever God says, hey, this is it. I know it's going to be in the service of someone else, and I know the biggest impact that was made on me was through college athletics, through the coaches that actually took me, a walk-on kid from Raymore, Missouri, under their wing and said, hey, this is how it's done. And I've actually got to connect with a couple of those coaches about 11 months ago at a conference in Nashville. But for me, it's a scenario where I'd be hard pressed to say anything else other than being a Division I football coach, man. And I'm not here to say, like, you know what, I got what it takes. Everybody hire me, all that good stuff, because I'm still learning. But I can promise you that I do have what it takes. And just watching my coaches move and watching to see what they did and how they did it and how they prepared and things like that. And how they got guys like myself to buy into, hey, this is what you're going to face in the world, my man. Now, it's one of those things that, for me, I don't see myself really doing anything else in terms of a career. Obviously, I want my family and all that good stuff there with me, and I know there's some sacrifices along the way. But from here, I see myself building my way up. That's not to say that I won't be at Avila for another 3 years or however long the case may be. But for me, I'm somebody that if I say I'm going to do it, then that's what's going to happen. I'm not someone who really takes no for an answer, and it's something that I want to do. I think that that's my calling. Every once in a while, God tells you, "Hey, you thought that was your calling, but watch this," and things like pandemics happen. But it's really giving me the perspective to sit down and say, "Hey, you know what? With all these variables on the table, what do you have? Are you determined? Are you willing to do what it takes? Are you living the lifestyle that you want to be teaching to these boys? Do you model what it is to be a coach?" And those are the questions that I ask myself along the way. But from here, I see myself continuing to build myself up from there, seeing what opportunities are out there. But in the meantime, I coach the Eagles at Avila, point blank, period. And I'm not someone who's going to overlook like an opponent. I'm definitely not going to overlook a specific situation that I'm in to say, oh, this is just preparing me for the next one. If I'm all in, I'm all in. But I see myself one day donning that headset, donning that black and gold, or whatever the case may be, for one of those coaching spots. And, that's just where I've been at, man. I think about that quite a bit. I think about that a lot, especially when I have downtime to sit, like, what am I doing right now that could set me up tomorrow? It's just about that preparation, the same preparation that I preach to our God. So from here, I see myself just working my way up and getting to where I need to be now.
Gotcha. All right. Well, one day we'll see you with the headset, and maybe I'll watch college football at that time. Like, I know that coach, so I'll watch that team play. So those are all the questions I have that are on the serious side. I do have one Instagram submitted question that applies to you. At any point, do you feel like your health is at risk because you're doing in-person work, or do you feel like you're good, like you've done all the precautions needed to stay healthy?
I definitely think it's a risk because I know, especially with the pandemic, a lot of folks think that the most susceptible are going to be, the elderly, things like that. And I have those conversations a lot because I talk to elderly people all the time. But I think it's a risk. I mean, I still follow the things, the protocols like wearing a mask. I still try to keep that social distance. I still do all the things to make sure that even if I don't know I have it, I'm not giving it to someone else. I think a lot of people are like, oh, I'm not going to get it. I'm like, well, you might actually have it and not know. But, I don't live in fear, but I think there's always a chance that I may, be at risk. But, I'm doing things like boosting my immune system, the things I eat. Don't count Christmas because there's a lot of ham and cookies. But working out, definitely trying to stay active, chasing my son around and my daughter, whatever the case is. But I think I'm doing the right things on my end to make sure that doesn't happen. And, I know it's kind of hit my daughter, her mom, and her stepdad a little bit. They actually work in the medical field, things of that nature. So they've actually contracted it about a month or so ago. But me, we were careful about that. We stayed in constant communication to make sure that no one else gets, contracts it for months or anything. I haven't tested positive. I've tested 3 times. So I think I'm doing the right thing. I think the face-to-faces always going to kind of give you a little bit of a chance of contracting it or giving it to someone else. For me, not something I've actually necessarily been worried about, even though I could definitely get sick from it. But I think we're doing the right things. I think I'm doing the right thing, making sure that we're good.
Got it. All right, so I have some quick questions for you. Quick 1-2 word question. 1-2 word answers, 2 questions. Or just whatever you want to give. So it looks like there's 15 questions. What was your favorite subject in high school or in school, in college, high school, middle school, whatever?
Oh, favorite subject, English.
Okay. Favorite dish or restaurant? Favorite dish to cook, favorite restaurant to eat at?
Favorite dish to cook? Oh, I'm going to get right over the coals for this one. Jambalaya.
Okay.
My favorite restaurant, I'm going to be honest, is Applebee's.
You're going to get some hate for that one.
I knew I would. And I'm here for it, man. It's all good. It's fine.
I feel like when that was one of the memes when the pandemic first started, like you risking getting COVID to go get Applebee's. I feel like I saw that also. I will say in college, I didn't find out till like the last couple of months. Me and my couple of friends found out they had like 3-for-1 drinks or 1 for some stupid cheap deal on alcoholic drinks, and we spent like the last couple of weeks just going to Applebee's like every week just because we were cheap college students. But I mean, it definitely has a place. I don't know about my favorite, but it has a place.
It does. I'll get me a 2 for $20 every now and then, but man, Applebee's has been my spot, man.
Okay. If you weren't doing what you're doing now professionally, what would you be doing?
I think I might still be doing some type of community work. Maybe I've done like mental behavioral health type stuff, but maybe like something nonprofit. Gotcha. Like service work.
Okay. Best gifts you've ever given or received?
Given? I think. And this is an ex-girlfriend, right? Nothing against her. I messed that up. But you know what? There was one year where I gave her, because she was into art and like creating things and things. So I got her like one of those tablet computers that like flips over and she can draw on it and all that good stuff and type or whatever. So I felt pretty good about that. She was mad at me that I got it. But what I didn't know is that I told her a while back, and I forgot I told her, she she actually, at Mizzou, there's a tradition on senior day that after you win on senior day or after your senior day game is over, you go select a rock from the rock M at the end of the end zone and you take that with you. I don't know what happened to my rock. I don't know what happened, but she actually, I opened up an envelope that she got me, and she had emailed the head coach at the time at Mizzou and was like, hey, my boyfriend played there. Do you remember him? He did something about his rock. He did blah, blah, blah. They actually mailed her a rock from the Rock M. And she gave that to me. And man, yeah, that's probably the best one I've ever received. Apart from obviously my babies. I'm gonna throw them in there, but I mean, you know.
I was gonna say that couldn't even be an answer because every parent always says that. So I'm glad.
They know me. They know me. And they know I love me some Mizzou, some football, but I mean, I don't know what I would do without my kids, but I don't know anyone who would just email the head coach and been like, hey, my boyfriend, if you could give him his rock from the Rock M, that'd be cool.
Okay. If you could eat one vegetable for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Sweet potatoes.
Are sweet potatoes vegetables?
I think so. I've asked that question before. I've been told it's a vegetable. I've been told potatoes are vegetables. I don't know. I'm
always questioning. We're gonna take that one to Instagram when this comes out. No. Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Absolutely not.
All right, time to end this interview right now.
I'm a pizza guy. You gotta ask LJ, man. He knows.
All right. Most extreme thing you've ever done?
Most extreme. Let me see. I've done a ton of extreme stuff, but I don't know if I did it. I put it together, but I was really into like the architecture of like roller coasters and stuff like that growing up. So when I was younger, there was a playroom at my aunt's house, and my cousin, she was maybe like 2 or 3. I fashioned together because I would watch and like there's like wheels underneath that like help push the the cars along and roller coasters. I fashioned together a makeshift roller coaster out of like one of those big storage bin type toy boxes, one of those like plastic storage containers, and like I flipped a bike upside down to where the wheels were up and it made like a little hill. And I put my cousin in the little storage thing and made her go down the roller coaster in the playroom. And it didn't work the first few times. So I kept putting her in there. Just like, stop crying, don't tell your mama. And I pushed it down there. She probably didn't remember that, but it worked 1 or 2 times. And after that, I just, kind of disassembled it real fast just so no one knew what was going on. But that might be the most extreme because, yeah, I put it together. It wasn't me. I was like, you testing this out. But that might be close to, that might be the closest thing. I think I was like maybe 8, 7, 8, 9, something like that.
And you haven't seen her since?
Oh no, I saw her a couple months ago, and she loves me.
Well, she really does remember. You got it. Is there any mantra that you live your life by? I've heard a couple different mantras, like I don't know, like the only easy day was yesterday, or I think that was Navy SEALs who actually said that one. But I don't know, man. There's so many different things that given the circumstance that I could say. I guess I could just say, why not me? That's probably one. That's why
I don't know. I've never been one who asks why me in a certain scenario, but I kind of got to the point where it's why not me? If it's in front of me, why not?
I mean, ever since, so my undergrad is where Amy Coney Barrett graduated from. And ever since she became a Supreme Court justice, I said, you know what, just live life like Amy Coney Barrett. You're qualified to do anything you want to do. So, not because we graduated from the same school, just because the lack of qualifications that she has to have that position. I was like, you can't tell me I'm not qualified. Donald Trump's president. I'm qualified to do anything I want to do.
There it is. That's what it is. Why not me?
Why not me? What guilty pleasure do you spend your money on?
Mm.
Or like, what's something you spend your money on that you shouldn't? I don't know, something along those lines.
I eat food a lot, man. Definitely pizza's in there. That's still a thing. I don't know if it's really specifically one thing, but a broad one would definitely be food. I'm not a big shoes or sneakers type guy. I have Chucks. That's about it.
I remember you hiked in Chucks, and I was like, how do your feet not hurt?
I don't know how I hiked Camelback Mountain in my red Chucks. I don't know how I did that. I don't.
He's a real athlete, because I feel like they're like the power lifters. You'll see them on Instagram, like lifting in the most random, like flat bottoms. Like, I don't know how y'all do that, because my feet would just quit on me if I did that. And you know, I was like, he's walking up a mountain in Chucks like it's nothing.
I don't know how. I did it. I just picked some shoes. I'm like, those will do, and then I just went with it. I don't know. I don't know. Guilty pleasures, though, man.
I think we'll reword that question. Just like, what's something you spend too much money on, basically?
Gosh. Well, golly, I know I spend way too much money on my kids. Way too much. I don't know why. Like I loved it as a kid, but now as an adult, I'm like, you don't need $300 worth of stuff, do you? No. But definitely, I don't know, man. Like honestly, I spend way too much money on food. I really do.
I mean, at least you're getting a good use out of it. It's going somewhere.
It is.
How would your best friends describe you in one word?
Man. Well, you know my best friend. So.
Oh God, not him. Not how would he describe you? Pick another one.
I don't know how Bronson would describe me, man. I would say one word: resilient.
Okay.
I think that might be resilient.
Okay. If you recommend a book, podcast, artist, TV series, movie, whatever, one of those things, what would you recommend?
Part. Like a podcast or something like that. Documentary. Oh gosh, I love LA 92. Man, there's a lot of them. Like that's the thing. I watch a lot of like the World War II documentaries and like things like that. But like Khalif Browder, that one, I would definitely recommend that
one. Okay. My next question was your favorite movie. Would that fall under your favorite movie?
Oh, Jurassic Park, by far.
Jurassic Park. Okay.
The first one. The other ones are cool, but that first one you can't beat. An argument can be made for heavyweight.
Okay. Best vacation you've ever taken?
Germany.
Ooh, okay.
Yep.
And what is important for those who don't know you to know personally? What is important for people who don't know you personally to know about you?
I may appear outspoken on a lot of different things, but I live inside my head a lot. I am an introvert, believe it or not. It just takes the right scenario for me to actually, disclose. So I'm, and a lot of folks can tell you I'm definitely a private person. But for me, I would say going away from like the mistaking the kindness for weakness type thing. When it comes to me, I'm a thinker. So a lot of times I think big picture. I don't necessarily think details. That's gotten me in trouble quite a bit because I'm like, okay, you want to do this? Cool. I remember back in college, it was like we had the opportunity to help some kids out. I was still playing at Mizzou, obviously. And there was like, it was a situation like, okay, bone marrow drive, let's go. Cool. And they're like, whoa, hey, let's think about what that actually means. I'm like, what? You just get in there and get stuff, right? Like that stuff. Like I'm somebody who's willing to just go and go get it. I'm also someone, and it kind of contradicts itself. I'm also someone who takes the time to think of the big picture. I'm a thinker. So sometimes I'm a little bit behind, but when it comes to different things that are going on, but at the end of the day, I think I trust myself more like on the spot than I do if I have like way too much time to think. So it's kind of an amoeba of different things about me, but definitely it's not a situation where if you see me quiet, that doesn't mean I don't care. That means I'm trying to conceptualize and organize things in my mind. So yeah, I'm a thinker, and believe it or not, I'm more of an introvert. So.
All right. Well, that concludes all of my questions. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we conclude this interview?
No, I mean, if there ever came a situation though, where I had to don this purple and I was coaching at LSU, would you watch it?
I mean, I think my family's all from Louisiana, so it'll be on regardless where I'm at. If I was a college team, it would probably be LSU. Because I actually wanted to go to LSU, but they didn't offer me enough scholarship money, so I was like, nah, I can't do that with y'all. So, yeah.
Because you said, would you, maybe you'd watch college football. I'm like, I don't know, man. I feel like LSU. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd probably watch it. I don't watch a lot of TV. That's what people don't realize. I like rarely turn my TV on. So I would, if it was LSU, I would definitely. If you're coaching, I would watch it regardless of where you go. So I would watch. But LSU would definitely be a star. Like, okay, I'm definitely watching now. But to wrap this up, this is Terrence Dennis, coach at Avila College. I've been saying that school wrong for the longest time. And just all around good guy. Like, I feel like I've learned a lot about you in this interview that I didn't know before, but you seem I'm getting to know you as a person who's like, you just want to help in any way, shape, or form. I mean, you just told me about the time in college when you tried to donate bone marrow, and I'm just like, excuse me. And I'm similar, like I'm big picture. I feel like that's when I'm like, don't you gotta play football tomorrow? But yeah, Terrence, thank you so much for doing this. You're an educator, and as I've been saying about this series, Teachers Lounge, educators aren't just teachers. They're people who work with anybody. But for me, I'm really want to talk to people who are working with young people. And coaches are at this space in students, players' lives, no matter what age group, but in your age group, where they're just really about to hit in 1 to 4 years, about to hit the real world, and what you are able to impart in them outside of the classroom is something that they'll take with them forever. So thank you for being that guiding light for the players that you have, and for your kids, and for the students you used to coach at the junior high school. And I appreciate you sitting down for this interview with me.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you.
All right, well, have a good day, and I'll be looking for Junior. And before I conclude this, if you want people to follow you, find you on social media, how can they find you?
On Twitter, it is at Coach _T Dennis, I think. No, Twitter is at Coach T Dennis. So T Dennis, DENNIS. If you want to follow me on Instagram, it's at Coach _1_. Someone actually tried to steal like my pictures and whatnot and create their own with like 2 underscores. So they're crafty. It's 1 underscore. You can follow me there at Coach _T Dennis. And then obviously I'm on Facebook as Terrence Dennis. So,
yeah. Well, if you want to learn more about Terrence Dennis, Coach Terry D, he just gave it to you, and I will obviously put it in whatever bio thing that has happened when these come out. But once again, thank you, and have a great day.
Have a great day, man. I'll talk to you.